Yeah, g'day all. I just wanted to take you through a video today of how I put my outdoor pull-up bar together. I'd watched a lot of videos on YouTube about how to go about doing one of these, but most of the plans that I saw called for digging deep holes in the ground to put the posts into. I think the general recommendation for putting posts in the ground is usually 1/3 in the ground for whatever's above ground. But in my circumstance, the backyard where I live is on a bit of a slope, and the flattest area of the backyard where I want to put it just happens to also be where the phone cables run through, so I was sort of limited in how deep I could dig in the area that I want to put it. So with that in mind, I had a bit of a think about how I wanted to put this together, and thought I'd make a sort of a cross between a freestanding and in-ground version. The design that I settled on in the end had to be high enough in order to do muscle ups and that sort of thing. I also wanted to be able to hang rings from it, and also possibly a rope to do some rope climbing on. The design that I came up with in the end was a bit different to anything I've seen on YouTube, so I thought it would be worth putting together in a video. Okay, so this is going to be the underground part of the structure. It's only going to be about 30 centimetres under. It'll be concreted into the ground. Then I'm going to join the cross leg to the upright with a cross lap joint at this point. And then I'm going to support the upright from the legs with a couple of braces. The leg itself will be made by 100 by 100 treated pine, and the upright will be 100 by 150 treated pine. The bar itself will be held in place by floor flanges, and will be a galvanised steel pipe to go at the top there. The overall length of the uprights will be 3 metres, with 30 centimetres of that in the ground will leave the overall height to be about 2.7 metres, and the legs themselves will be 2.4 metres long. The braces on the uprights should be enough to stop any forwards and backwards movement, and the area that's underground should be enough to stop any side to side movement. Okay, we're starting out here with one of the uprights. It's a 150 by 100 by 3 metre piece of treated pine, which is roughly 4 by 6 by 10 foot if you're watching in the United States. I bought these for $25 a piece. And the first thing I did was mark out 30 centimetres from the bottom of the post, which is the area that's going to be buried underground. I then took my ruler and measured 100mm or 10 centimetres from the previous line that I'd marked, which is going to be the section that we're going to remove for the lap joint, which will connect the upright to the foot. Now, a lap joint, for anyone who's not familiar with it, is where we remove half the thickness of the two pieces of wood that are being joined together, and they should slot together nice and tightly. After we've marked out the section of wood that we're going to remove from the post, you need to grab your circular saw, and because the wood is 100mm thick, you need to set the depth of the blade to 50mm, which is half the depth of the piece of wood. Most circular saws have a depth measurement on them, but it's always a good idea to double check that measurement or the setting of your blade with a trusty ruler, just to make sure you get it right, because you don't want to stuff things up and have ruined your piece of wood. Here I'm just setting up my dust collection to try and keep the work area a bit tidier and keep a bit of the dust out of the air. You don't want to breathe in too much of the dust from treated pine products, because it's not too good for you. You can use a speed square as a guide by clamping it to your piece of wood, which will keep your cuts at a 90-degree angle to your piece of wood. Make your first and second cut along the pencil lines that you've drawn on your piece of wood at 30 and 40 centimetres. Next, you're going to make several freehand cuts between the two cuts that you've already made. Each one should just be a couple of millimetres apart to facilitate easy removal of the wood for your joint. When you finish making your cuts, take a chisel and remove the pieces of wood. If you've made the cuts close enough together, they should pop out fairly easily. Then take your chisel and clean up any extra bits that have been left behind. Once your dregs are removed, that's the upright piece finished. Next we're going to start on one of the leg pieces, which is 100 by 100 by 2.4 metre treated pine. That's roughly 4 by 4 by 8 foot long. I picked these up for about $11 each. Find the centre of the piece of wood and then mark out a section 150mm wide. Once you remove this section, it'll accommodate the upright piece of timber by forming the other half of the lap joint. Take your upright and your leg and test fit your lap joint by pressing the two pieces together. Whoa, look at that! Perfect! Check that it's all good by grabbing your speed square and making sure that it fits together at a 90-degree angle. Even though I'm using treated pine, I decided to use this in-ground timber protector to coat the timber and give it an extra level of protection. It's horrible sticky crap and it takes days and days to dry, but it does give your timber a nice black sheen. To connect the two pieces of wood together, I used some all-weather construction adhesive and stuck it in the middle of the joint. I used plenty of it and I put it on both pieces of wood to fill in any imperfections where I'd chiselled stuff out. With the two coats of paint and the construction adhesive, it made the joint even tighter. Next I drilled a couple of big 10mm holes straight through both pieces of wood. It took a bit of effort to get through because I forgot to check the condition of my battery, which was almost flat. I chucked two big cup-headed bolts through the holes that I'd made, and then did them up nice and tight using an impact wrench. I made a mistake early on by drilling a 10mm pilot hole where the bar is going to go through at the top of the piece of wood. I didn't think about it at the time, but the final hole was going to have to be drilled with a spade bit, and having the pilot hole there was going to make it difficult to get that done. I scoured YouTube for a solution to the problem, and I found one where you could line up an additional piece of wood above the hole that you've already made, and use that to guide the tip of the spade bit. It was a simple solution and it worked quite well. I probably should have paid attention to whoever posted the video so I could give them credit here. The final hole that I drilled was 32mm in diameter. The bar that I'm using is 20mm galvanised pipe, which has an outside diameter of about 27mm, so it'll have a little bit of wiggle room. Make two of these monstrosities and I'll see you over in part 2 where we put it together.